Well, if you know me, you know that I love anything journaling related. So, of course, I'm going to help for my own products where I have cute notebooks with butterflies and sloth because I love them so much. And it's just lined notebook that you can turn into journaling. And then I hope for my own journal. And it's just the three things that are important to you. Not the to do list, but what really matters, something that you're grateful for, something that you're proud of, something that you dream of, and something that you pray for. Something simple but effective. And then now I have my own planners as well. You can check them out at lifewithfrancy.com/shop. Hello and welcome to Life with Francy Podcast, a place where you will find all kinds of conversation like mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a place where we support one another in business and personal life. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, let's get this show started. On today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Erika Parker, and she is having graduated university early with a bachelor in forensic science and pre-medicine. Erika took a chance and quit her career in forensics to build her own luxury skincare brand, Silkenn. She then wanted to expand the intent of meaning of Silken into podcasting, curating conversation about self-care. Behind the Silk is a dedicated to helping the busy millennial prioritize self-care from a holistic perspective. I love that. This podcast is a place for those juggling chaos of daily life to explore different self-care practices and receive practical, actionable, and relatable advice. I can't wait to start this conversation with you. Welcome to the show. Tell us, what is life with you?
Hi, thank you for having me. Life is lifing. I guess in a good way. My background is in the sciences. I recently left my career in forensics, like you mentioned, to start my own luxury skincare line, and it's been a journey ever since. So here we are in the entrepreneurship podcasting space, and I can't wait to get into it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh, I'm going to have so much fun. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so 2019 was a crazy year for me. I suffered a very traumatic loss in my family. I up and quit my job, and I was really just on this sabbatical period. So I decided to take 6 months at the end of 2019 to travel and figure out what is it that I want to pursue in life? What am I really passionate about? What do I really want? So I took those 6 months to travel, and self-care was like huge for me during that time period, dealing with grief and trying to figure out my purpose and what I wanted to do. And skincare was something that really kept me grounded throughout that time period of, trying to get myself back together. And my plan was to come back in 2020 and re-enter the job market and start strong. And the universe had other plans. So that just threw me for a whirlwind too. But it gave me some time to really focus on this project that I wanted to pursue, which is Silkenn. And it's a skincare brand really inspired by city living. While I was traveling, I realized that my skin was behaving differently in different environments. So the way that my skin behaved in New York was not how it behaved when I was in the dry air of Arizona or the humid air of the Caribbean. So I tapped into my science background, did all this digging and research in academic journals and papers, and really did a lot of studying on how environmental stressors impact our skin. And we've been in the process of building Silken ever since. And last year, I decided to take the meaning of Silken to a new level with podcasting. And that's where Behind the Silk was born. And Silken is all about the exterior beauty and all of those things. And Silken is really about the internal and self-care from a life holistic perspective.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. I just started taking care of myself and loving myself and doing all kinds of stuff. So you can go ahead and tell us anything that you want to share about the company, the podcast, just tell us everything about you.
Yeah, so Silken is, like I said, really inspired by city living. So we really focus on protecting the skin barrier by way of the skin microbiome. And I don't want to get too scientific, but the microbiome is basically that balance of good and bad bacteria on the skin. And it really plays a very big role in how our skin barrier behaves. And our skin barrier is exposed to so much. Like when you think environmental stressors and pollution and smog and hard water if you live in very high densely populated areas. So how do we go about taking care of ourselves by way of our skin? And that's where Silken really specializes. And then in regards to the podcast, yeah, like we talk about everything from our mental health and emotions to finances and religion and spirituality and self-discovery and health and wellness. I mean, we talk about it all. And I think it's really important to curate a space to have these conversations because life can be challenging, especially when you're in a season of life trying to just navigate who you are and where you're trying to go and all of these very big life changes. And I find it very therapeutic for myself. I find so behind the silk to even be like a personal journal of documenting my own self-care journey, which has been super cool to do.
I love that. As you see at the beginning of the episode, I love journaling and anything, so it's just so cool the different types of journaling and all the things that other people that track, because for me, tracking is my mental health. It's like at the priority. So did I suffer anxiety? Did depression came to visit and things like that? But when it comes to skincare, what are some stuff that can help somebody?
Yeah, I think it's about really being intentional. I'm not a skincare expert, I'm not a dermatologist or an esthetician, but I really take skincare as an important step in my self-care journey because it's a time for me to be intentional. Whether it's like 10 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes at night, it's really a time for me to really kind of like take a step back, de-stress, and check in with myself, whether that be looking in the mirror and seeing what's going on with our skin, or just like playing a playlist and doing some self-care practices that I enjoy, lighting a candle and getting into the mood. I think dedicating that time and being intentional is super important. And I'm really a believer that our skin is always communicating with us. And the real question is, are we listening? There's a practice in Chinese medicine called face mapping, where it really dives into when you have breakouts or reactions on your skin in certain places, it tends to allude to other things in the body. Like, for example, if you're breaking out along your jawline, it's typically hormonal, or on your under your cheeks, it's typically related to diet. So again, it's like taking that time to listen to our bodies, I think is super important. And I think that comes with a level of self-awareness, like you were talking about earlier, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling anxious? Are you worried? What are you worrying about? And to facilitate those conversations with ourselves, how often do we do that? And should we be doing that more often?
Definitely. I'm new to the self-love, self-care world. And just by the time at the time of this recording, I've been struggling with my health. And one thing that made a huge difference that I knew that I was getting better, it was my self-care routine. When I
Mm-hmm.
did it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's been a couple of days that I have not treated my skin like I usually do. And it just feels so good. For me, it's a simple one, just of cleanser, toner, moisturizer, and then once in a while, exfoliating and things like that, just because I work outside. So depending
Mm-hmm.
the season, that too, it will like do a lot of things and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else that you would like my listeners to know about you or your mission?
Yeah, I guess another part of Silken is that we're a city-based brand. I'm based in New York, that's where I live. And it was really important for me to have a philanthropic, I hope I'm saying that word right, philanthropic, something like
I'm
that.
not even
A
gonna
give,
try it.
right, all right, a give back aspect of the brand. Now I can't speak. And that was really important to me. So, really debating what did I want this brand to stand for and what did I want the mission to be? And something that we decided to tackle is, focusing on the homeless and affordable housing crisis in big cities. I felt like I wanted to support something that was really true to who we are and what we stand for. And being a New Yorker and, understanding that housing is extremely expensive and seeing the homelessness crisis on such a personal scale, whether it be like on the subway or even outside of these multi-billion dollar buildings, it's really heart-wrenching. So us being able to take a stand and have that type of impact, and being very in touch and local with the communities and the partnerships that we have with homeless shelters and other organizations has been another huge aspect of the brand that I'm really proud of, that we've been able to create some type of impact. Because making money is one thing, that's great, right? Like a business is for profit, that's how you stay in business. But I think having an impact just is so much more fulfilling and has so much more purpose.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I was born in New York and have taken some vacations in New York. So I
Hey, shout out to New
understand the
York.
struggle is real. Yeah, I was born in the Bronx and raised
Okay.
between Brooklyn and Manhattan, but in Puerto Rico too. So most of the time was in Puerto Rico. But as a Puerto Rican, New York was the thing in the 90s. So it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, we went to New York. So
Yep.
I have cool memories of like block parties, and
Yeah.
having the water everywhere. Like, cool, good times,
It's a
good times.
vibe. New York is a
It
vibe. I don't care
is
what anyone says,
like,
you know?
but now I'm in Kansas, and like everybody's like, "How did you end up in Kansas from like Puerto Rico?" I lived in New York, I lived in Maryland, and I now have been almost 2 decades in Kansas. So now when I
Oh,
go to the
wow.
East Coast, I'm like, nope, I'm going back. I need to go back to my Kansas, the quiet, the country, the stars. There's stars in
Yeah,
the
the
sky. Did you
stars.
know that?
Yeah, no. We don't get to see that over the smog,
And
like we
then
don't get the clear view.
I have a friend that lives on the countryside of New York. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing. That's not New York. You need to call it something
Right.
else because you don't
That's
live in
like
New
that's
York. If
lower,
you're
it's
not
lower
in
Canada.
Brooklyn, Manhattan, or the Bronx, that's like, no, you're not in New York.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Where
having me and
can
sharing your platform.
where can my listeners find you?
Yeah, if you're interested in Silkenn and signing up to our wait list, we'll be launching later this year. Hopefully, you can head over to at Silkenn, Silkenn Co on Instagram to hear me chat it up a little bit more and listen to the podcast. You can go to at Behind the Silk Pod on Instagram. And if you're interested with me, I'm at the Erika Nicolle on Instagram. That's Erika Ericka on all social media platforms.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Of course, thank you for having me.
uh Last but not least, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful to have woken up this morning. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it and sometimes we just have to be really grateful for small mercies. So I'm here. That means I have another day of purpose, and that's all I can ask for on a daily basis.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Life with Francy podcast. You can find it in all major platforms as well as my YouTube channel. You know the drill. Help this girl out. Like and subscribe. And you can find the information of my guests in the description of the episode. Have a blessed day. Bye bye.